All right, I believe we're live. At least that's what it says according to my end of things. So I'm gonna start talking and hopefully make this a very brief video. Struggling through some allergies, so hopefully not too many interruptions, not too many sneezes or otherwise. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the recent surprising uproar among blue staters over the decision to redistribute some immigrants northward, and I think it's a pretty concrete and it's rather remarkable encapsulation of the hypocrisy of the no borders crowd, these people, and you see tons of these homes. If you live in a place like New York City, uh, you probably see them in Martha's Vineyard. I'm sure that the Venezuelans and Central Americans that are now in Martha's Vineyard, the 50 or so, have come across these signs, refugees welcome. Well, actually it's a sign that has all of these liberal platitudes in this home. And then refugees welcome, love is love, so on and so forth. There are about 12 or 13 bullet points that represent the current 2022. I don't know if they've added a masking, a COVID related, although they might have started manufacturing signs with a COVID in a pro-vaccine, pro-Pfizer addendum to all of these bullet points. There's this house in Astoria, Queens. If you get off, I think this is off of the Broadway stop. You get out of the station and you pass by this house, and it has literally, I'm not exaggerating, it has over 100 liberal bumper stickers on the front of the house, and you can gauge when they were affixed to the house based on what. So you have no war for oil. You have the Bush era bumper stickers. You have the evergreen, the perennial bumper stickers. Supporting abortion and supporting abortion in all cases. The LGBT bumper stickers. All of these, whatever liberal nostrums are in vogue at the time, you can kind of chart the progress just by looking at these stickers that are facing outward, facing the street. And of course, you have the anti-Trump, anti-MAGA. There might have been a Joe Biden sticker that was added, but that's kind of what these things are. And one of the main, I don't know if they've added the Fauci. They might have, but one of the points in the middle is refugees welcome. Hey, GW, good to see you. Refugees welcome. That's a big. I don't know if that's orange or blue. It's variegated. They have it's multicolored. So each point is either orange or blue or purple. Amen, Sandra. Um, that might be I think that might also science is there's an atheist. I think there's an atheist component to it. There's one line, as an aside, there's one line that says, we respect science. I don't know if that's something like that. But that but one of the main points is refugees welcome in big bold letters, and you see these signs everywhere. If you live in a neighborhood like Park Slope, or even if you're passing by neighborhood like Park Slope or Williamsburg, you see these pop up, and it's sort of the more aggressive version of those coexist bumper stickers where it shows a bunch of religious symbolism, including, I think, Wicca or Satanism. I'm not. I think one of them is Wicca. So it's COEXIST, and at the very end is the cross, to represent Christianity, and all the other letters are religions that despise Christianity. You have the Islamic symbol, which is hostile to any any alternative religion, but it's a perfect representation of progressivism in the sense that it's a platitude, or a series of platitudes rather, that espouse an untenable perspective. And the Martha's Vineyard uh, uh, controversy is a perfect illustration of this. And this is something that's been going on for a couple of weeks. I live in New York, and there are now the maladroit mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, has uh, come to the point where he's admitting that the shelter system is going to collapse, because despite advertising New York as a sanctuary city, there's limited resources to deal with the tens of thousands of people who actually are homeless, let alone thousands of newcomers who we're not equipped to address, who probably had their savings taken from them just being smuggled over the border, or if they're or getting to Mexico in order to apply for asylum status. So if they have money, they have very little money, and New York City obviously is not equipped to deal with this. And this is the result. It's sort of, and there are a number of ways to look at this. On Twitter, there was a political analyst who was saying he doesn't have a problem necessarily with burdening blue state mayors with this problem, considering their own cavalier attitude towards the deluge of border crossers that the Biden administration unleashed over the past, basically since they've been inaugurated. And but he doesn't necessarily have a problem with that, but he thinks it's an admission of weakness, in the sense that this is sort of, and to a certain degree there's some legitimacy to that point, but he asserted that it was an admission of weakness. In other words, we can't do anything to stop this problem or to ameliorate this situation, so we're simply passing the buck and scoring cheap political points. However, I don't necessarily look at it that way. I think it's actually sort of a brilliant masterstroke by the Republican Party, which is usually characterized by ineptitude and being dominated in this field, particularly the political. I guess you would call this, you would call this the equivalent of Alinskyism, forcing, being sort of um, overwhelming your political adversaries and at the same time highlighting or exposing their hypocrisies. And this is the perfect illustration of the vacuity of the open borders position. These people, and this is the default position of the Democratic Party and most of the left. You can see it with organizations like the Sierra Club, which was ostensibly created to preserve open lands and the environment. And as a result of shifting political sentiments and the feelings of the donor class, has become the biggest advocate for mass immigration, for removing any sort of border enforcement. So this is basically the default position of American progressives. Just get rid of any sort of external enforcement, get rid of any interior enforcement. Let uh, don't let the state perform one of its assigned roles, i.e., protecting the integrity of the country, and the borders, the sovereign nature of the country itself. So it it is it's a great illustration of the hypocrisy of this position, because these people who believe in all these things, the minute they're actually tasked with welcoming refugees, they fail miserably and they lash out and they displace blame onto Republican governors who are in charge of states that are being inundated with illegal aliens and refugee or asylees, whether legitimate or illegitimate, and they're not capable of sustaining this position, because it's an unsustainable position to say that the entire world should be welcomed into the United States. Anyone, or the entire world, rather, the entire world that desires to live here should be welcome. So anyone who wants to better their life in some capacity should be welcomed into the United States, um, even if it means overwhelming the society itself and all of the institutions that undergird that society. And this is a great way of proving this point, in addition to highlighting what these border states are dealing with. And if you looked at social media, you saw the counselors and the local officials from Massachusetts highlighting the fact they one of the pictures they showed was a group of ostensibly a group of volunteers helping provide food, and they showed a bunch of sugary cereals and and soft drinks that they were going to give the people who had been sent to Martha's Vineyard. Um, and a couple of people made the point that, look at these stupid Republicans. They don't, they think that, Massachusetts or New York or Chicago that they don't have immigrants, that we're going to be overwhelmed by immigrants. And it's it's a perfect example of them missing the point altogether. This idea that, no, it's not that. I'm sure Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis are aware that these states have immigrants, they have illegal aliens, they have they have thousands of people from other countries that come there on a regular basis. But that's not the point. The point is to illustrate what they don't have. They don't have. They're not dealing with 500,000 people crossing the border. A large number of them coming because of the incentives that have been created by the Biden administration. Even though President Trump was dinged for not really following through on some of his immigration related campaign promises, he was incredibly successful in a lot of area at addressing a lot of the deficiencies that existed in the immigration system. For example, the caravans, the regular caravans of migrants that were used as a political weapon against um, against Trump and as a way of undermining U.S. border control. They they were stopped. Trump managed to stop these that and the excesses of the refugee resettlement system. He more than halved that during his tenure. So you had a situation where you still had the existing immigration problems, but the um, the most destructive elements that had been added over the past half decade had been had been ceased. And what Biden did was just open up the spigot once again. And the way I look at it is that what this even though this is not a solution per se to the immigration problem, it's a way of catalyzing catalyzing the public, showing them what is actually happening if you live on the southern border in Texas or in Arizona. It's a way of crystallizing this for the public and also forcing the people who are responsible for this and i.e. the political class uh, to deal with what they created, to essentially, at least in part, and again, this is a partial, this only partially addressed in the sense that, even a few thousand refugees and migrants being sent there, that's a fraction of the number of people that are pouring into the United States every single day. But it also highlights how empty this philosophy is. And when you look at it, there's no I haven't seen a substantive defense of this philosophy ever, whether it's from open borders libertarians of the Brian Kaplan stripe, or open borders Marxists and socialists, or garden variety Democrats who support mass immigration and no restrictions whatsoever. I've never seen coherent, a cogent intellectual defense of this position in my life, and I'm not exaggerating. I remember going to a debate between Mark Krikorian, I believe, and Tom Tancredo and Chris Kobach, and Julian Castro and Tamar Jacoby, and those two represented the pillars of the open borders movement. You had Tamar Jacoby, a very sort of corporatist. I wouldn't even describe her so much as a libertarian, but an open borders advocate from the non-left side. And you had Julian Castro, the cabinet secretary under Obama, representing the mainstream Democratic pro-immigration side. And they could not present, because there is no persuasive case beyond the ad hominems and the platitudes and pointing to the New Colossus, a poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty, which had nothing to do with the actual statue itself and is not part of constitutional law or or the history of the United States. Beyond these sort of distractions, there's no persuasive case. The basic case boils down to it'll increase the aggregate GDP of the United States, which is not a persuasive case. I mean, you could increase the GDP by which the government has tried to do by printing money, by just pouring um, money into the system and inflating the currency, and that that does not create that does not create real wealth. It actually it harms um, it harms Americans and people who are not, well, it harms a lot of people, but the idea that simply adding population is a solution to economic problems is it's dubious. And that was Matthew Iglesias wrote this entire book premised on that argument. I didn't read the entire book, but I skimmed through portions of it, and his argument basically boiled down to that. There was the ad hominem accusations that you're racist if you or xenophobic, which is not a logical argument, and let alone a persuasive one that should lead someone to support these policies. But beyond that, the basic case boiled down to, well, this will raise the GDP of the United States, uh, not factoring in a whole host of other considerations, the economic problems that it would cause, or the societal problems that would ensue if by pursuing this policy on a mass scale. In other words, removing every single immigration restriction that exists. And I think this little experiment has proven that the open borders case is without merit, intellectual merit. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I will see you soon.